Good evening from St Michael's Church in a place called Llanfiahangel yn Rhythau in the county of Gwynedd in Wales. There's just a small cemetery here, but there are 3 significant graves here.
We're going to be visiting the grave of a cult leader from the 1700s, an author who had one of his novels made into a Hollywood film, and a man who was a pallbearer at the funeral of Robert Kennedy.
I was here about 3 years ago, and I located 2 of the graves. I've come back today to find the 3rd one, but I will show you the other 2 as well. I'll begin with probably the most significant grave here. I'll begin by visiting the grave of David Ormsby Gore, the former British ambassador to the United States during the Kennedy administration. He was a long-time friend of President Kennedy. They were actually in university together. And here's the grave. Just go round to the other side because the sun's in an unfortunate position at the moment. In loving memory of William David Ormsby Gore, 5th Baron of Harlech, and the name of the house, Glyn Cowarch, 1918 till 1985. Now it's believed Ormsby Gore was a calming influence on President Kennedy during the Cuban Missile Crisis. So you might be looking at the grave of the man who saved the world here. And later on he was romantically linked to Jackie Kennedy before she married Aristotle Onassis. Now, he was killed in 1985 following a car accident in Oswestry in England. His own wife had actually died in a car accident not far from here. Ormsby Gore was very well respected by the Kennedy family, and on the day of his funeral, senior members of the Kennedy family were here, including Jackie Kennedy herself. There's actually a photograph of a tearful Jackie Kennedy leaving the cemetery along this path. I've got a whole video about him. If you scroll back, I think it was maybe 3 years ago I made the video, so if you scroll back on my videos you should be able to find that.
There is actually an error in that video. In the video I say that Ormsby Gore was a pallbearer at the funeral of John Kennedy. This was incorrect. He was only a pallbearer at the funeral of his brother, Robert Kennedy.
It's a pretty amazing view here. Just get closer to the wall so you can see. Wow. Next is the grave of Richard Hughes. Just trying to remember where the grave is. I think it's roughly in this area. Here we are. Richard A.W. Hughes, writer. He's a writer of poems, short stories, novels and plays. He wrote the first ever radio play. He only wrote 4 novels in his lifetime, and he was a very slow writer. It sounds like he was a bit of a character. His family members recall him being locked in his room, writing with a very silent typewriter. He would often have days where he had a negative word count because he used to cross off a lot of the work that he'd written. In memory of Richard A.W. Hughes, writer, Mor Edrin Ynys, died April 28, 1976, aged 76, and his wife Frances C.R. Hughes, artist, died 9th of May 1985, aged 79 years. And the house is maybe half a mile away from here, and that's where he passed away in 1976. And he was actually a church warden here. He used to live in the town of Harlech in South Wales, and he befriended the poet Dylan Thomas there. This is the Dylan Thomas that's been mentioned in the Taylor Swift song recently. And Dylan Thomas lived with Richard Hughes for a time in Harlech, and it was Richard Hughes actually convinced Dylan Thomas to move to the town permanently. One of his novels was called A High Wind in Jamaica, which he wrote in 1929. It was made into a Hollywood film of the same name in 1965, and that film starred Anthony Quinn and James Corbin. Okay, I failed last time I was here, but now I'm going to try and find the grave of Mary Evans, known as Mary of the White Cloak. Born in 1735, she's believed to have moved to this area around 1780, and she managed to convince a number of people that she was the wife of Jesus Christ and that she was immortal. The cult that she created is believed to have numbered around 60 or 70 people, and they would meet in houses but also on top of hilltops in this area. And they were known to wear white cloaks on Sundays. Last time I was here I didn't have much to go on, but since then I've been told that her grave is probably located close to the door of the church, and I've also seen a photograph of the grave now. Now it appears that I've had some duff information about the location of the grave. I was told it was by the door of the church, but it's actually down here. It was actually behind the church, not by the door. It's actually not far away from the grave of Richard Hughes. The inscription is in Welsh and it's very hard to make out, but it says this is where Mary Evans was buried October 28th in the year 1789. It says she was 54 years of age. She had convinced her followers that she would never die, so there was a long delay before she was buried in this churchyard. And she was only buried because the authorities insisted that she was buried for reasons of hygiene. In English, she's known as Mary of the White Cloak. In Welsh, that would be Mary of Antell Wen. And I believe that one of her followers had carved that name into the back of the headstone. So let's have a look. Oh, okay, you can see somebody's done something, but it's pretty much impossible to make out. That's where somebody's written Mary, but you can't make anything else out. After she died, some of her followers kept her clothes as relics, but the cult didn't last very long after her death.
The longer I've waited, the more that I've tried. All the years that I've wasted trying to find it. All that I go through, the the window, no smoke in my eyes. I can hear the wind chiming. It's always been you in the back of my mind. Early blue morning, when everything's cold, I see you running, all covered in gold. There's nothing else that eases my soul. I let it all go out the window, no smoke in my eyes. I can hear the wind chiming. It's always been you in the back of my mind. When there are others, I do the routine. I dance all alone there, I try to be seen. Then there's a feeling, you know what I mean. I let it all go out the window,